I grew up in a suburban home. All the houses looked the same. In my high school, you kind of just hung out with who you felt comfortable hanging out with. And so I was surrounded by a bunch of different races, ethnicities. It was pretty different when I moved here to Irvine. Many can see Irvine is a very heavily based Asian population. So it was kind of interesting, but also challenging for me to go from a setting that was super diverse, different cultures, different backgrounds, to a setting that everyone kind of almost shared similarities amongst one another. So for the most part, I kind of miss going home to the Bay Area because I miss being around a diverse group of people, getting to understand people of different backgrounds. Being surrounded by so much diversity, it kind of took me away from judging people based on like their ethnicity or their race.
I also come from a very religious background since I didn't grow up in the public school system. It's kind of different going from a private school system with really few people as well as like, you know everyone. But you're pushed into a public school system, you know no one, there's people of like different religions, different backgrounds, different races from you, and it's kind of like, how do I talk to them? How do I approach them? I'm not used to not having something in common with someone. It was just like really different for me to meet new people as well as understand that there's so many different worldviews aside from mine. There's so many different cultures aside from mine, and that I need to learn how to assimilate to those as well as.
And I've grown up in a couple different areas. I was born in Colorado, and that's primarily a white area. And then I moved to Vegas when I was 9. And Vegas is a melting pot. So there's Asians, there's African American people, there's Hispanic people. Like, because of that, it influenced my open-mindedness, it influenced how I am as a person.
Well, growing up, I would say I was around a lot more cultures than at UCI. I grew up in the East Bay. I would say I had a pretty diverse group of friends. I had friends that were, my best friend was like a white guy, for example, but he's also Hispanic. Coming down here, it's such a big shift because thinking about it from an Asian perspective, there's a lot more diversity down here than I've seen back home. But growing up, I would say I primarily grew up with African Americans, Hispanics, a little bit of white kids here and there as my friends. But I feel like my background has made me a lot more diverse in thinking. Like, I don't believe in stereotypes so much because I've seen like a little bit of everything, you know. I also want to say I'm probably a lot more comfortable around minorities as well because that's kind of how I grew up with.
Let's see, I feel like I've navigated through many types of culture. Growing up, I've gone to the Mexican, Guatemalan, and then like American. It's like everyday thing. I get to see like the way like people act, how people like interact with each other. It can be difficult at times too. When you're going to like a different culture, you're seen as like weird or different. And it's like coming into UCI, I feel like I didn't fit in. But like how I grew up and like how I was brought up, I've learned that I just have to like strive through it. And so coming in, I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I feel like I don't fit in. I'm gonna make myself fit in. This is my space. This is what my culture is. And my culture is like anywhere, no matter where I'm at.
On a daily basis, I engage with so many people, whether it's LGBT, whether it's, you know, Hispanic. I love that I get to navigate these cultures. I think the things that I've gotten to participate in, like whether it be the administrative culture of UCI, you know, these are things that someone like me who has a background of really working for a living the first 38 years of my life, driving a truck and facing that limited exposure to the many different cultures. And then from this going in, and so it's kind of like I feel like I'm at the grown-up table. There's no real finite number I could put on how many I navigate on a daily basis. You know, from one day to the next, it's so many vastly different things. This weekend, I'm going to the Creole and Crawfish Festival in San Diego. They're cooking 4 million pounds of crawfish at this thing. We're gonna be just dancing all weekend to Cajun music, you know, which is a culture in and of itself. I embrace these things. I love these things. And for me, that's why I love my job. Culture, whether we put it as an ethnicity or an age or, you know, whatever, food, music, I mean, whatever. I like to think I am a student of multiculturalism.
I grew up in Southern California in Carson, which happens to be a very, very diverse city. And if you think about the question of culture, I think it's something that's really dynamic. So it depends on place and time. I'm proud to say that I'm a Filipino American, and so that's sort of the central culture that I operate under. But I might be interacting with people from different cultures, and so I think what's a beautiful thing is that you can be fluid in the moment. So you might be interacting with somebody from a different culture from you, whether maybe they're Latino, Spanish speaking, or they might be African American, or they might be Chinese, or whatever it might be. And so one of the beautiful things about being Filipino is I think we were the first to be multicultural, right? And so we're able to sort of operate in those spaces and be fluid in those spaces. Again, being Filipino American, I think it allowed me to kind of interact with those communities and cultures in a way that was, for me, comfortable. I think what's a nice thing about cultures and the interaction, and I think it's a back and forth. It's not necessarily a one-way kind of relationship. I might give a little bit of myself, and then in return I might get a little something back from the people that I'm interacting with.